All right, let's dive into something that at first glance might seem pretty unsettling. We're going to uncover a set of practices that reveal a deeply human story, one about love, loss, and how we remember. Take a good look at this photograph. It seems like a typical family portrait from the 19th century, right? But there's a secret hidden here in plain sight. That little girl, she's no longer alive. And that, of course, brings us to the big question. Why on earth would Victorians create these haunting images and other really intimate mementos of their dead? Well, what seems macabre to us today was for them a genuine source of profound comfort. To really get why they found this comforting, we have to step into their world. And, it was a world where death was a constant, incredibly familiar presence. See, for the Victorians, especially before modern medicine, death wasn't some abstract thing you heard about happening far away. It was right there. People didn't die in sterile hospitals. They died at home, usually surrounded by their entire family. So you really have this perfect storm of factors brewing. Child mortality was tragically unbelievably high. Epidemics like cholera could just sweep through these new, crowded industrial cities with terrifying speed. And then right in the middle of all this, photography is invented. Suddenly, for the first time, you could capture a perfect likeness of someone, a luxury that used to be only for the super wealthy. This created this incredible urgency to get a photograph, because for many, it would be the only one they'd ever have. So, how did they cope with this constant presence of death? Well, they developed a whole set of rituals around what they called a good death. This was a huge cultural ideal. It was all about being spiritually ready for the end, and, just as importantly, making sure the person who passed was honored with really elaborate and respectable mourning practices. And this is where things get really interesting, because that personal grief started to get tangled up with public perception. These rituals weren't just about love anymore. They became a way to signal your social status. Elaborate funerals, very specific mourning clothes, commissioning these mementos. It was all a way for a family to show not only how much they grieved, but also how wealthy and respectable they were. So, with death being so present, how did they make memories that would actually last? They made them tangible. They made things you could hold. Let's look at the incredible craft of remembrance that grew out of this. Postmortem photography literally became an art form. Photographers got really creative with techniques to make the deceased look as lifelike as possible. On the left, for instance, you can see how they would pose a child to look like they're just in a deep sleep. Or, get this, with the man on the right, they'd use hidden stands to prop an adult up. Then, in the darkroom, they could even paint pupils right onto the final print, or add a little rosy tint to the cheeks to give that final haunting illusion of life. But remember, photos were still pretty new, and not everyone could get one. So families wanted something more, something even more personal. They were looking for tangible ways to hold on to the person they lost, something they could physically touch and carry with them every day. This intense desire led to the incredible craftsmanship you see in mourning jewelry. But these weren't just generic mementos. They were often made from a very, very personal, and to us, maybe a bit surprising material: the deceased's own hair. Now, why hair? Well, think about it for a second. Unlike the body, hair doesn't decay. It lasts. It's an incredibly durable and intimate part of a person. So for Victorians, weaving it into jewelry was a way to make a memory permanent, to literally keep a physical piece of their loved one close to their heart. This intense desire to connect with the departed didn't just stop with the physical body. It actually pushed the boundaries of what people believed photography itself could do, and it led to this absolutely fascinating and pretty controversial new trend. So, welcome to the wild world of spirit photography. You had photographers like this guy, William Mumler, who claimed they could do the impossible. They said they could capture images of a deceased person's ghost right there alongside their living relatives. And this was a huge deal. Mumler became so famous that he even photographed Mary Todd Lincoln with what she truly believed was the ghost of her late husband, Abraham. But all that fame also got him put on trial for fraud. Now, here's the crazy part. The charges were dismissed. The prosecution couldn't prove exactly how he was faking it. And of course, all that publicity just made him even more popular. So here's the crucial thing to understand. It almost didn't matter if these photos were real or fake. What mattered is that they offered tangible hope and real solace. This was especially true for families who had lost sons and husbands in the American Civil War. families who often never even got a body back to mourn. A spirit photograph was like visual proof that their loved one was still with them somehow. Now, these really formal, elaborate mourning practices, they largely faded away after World War I. The sheer scale of that collective grief just shifted the whole culture. But our fascination with what the Victorians did, that has come back in a really big way. Today, these objects are having a total renaissance. Museums like the Mutter in Philadelphia hold entire exhibitions dedicated to the incredible, intricate artistry of Victorian hairwork, like this amazing hair tree. They're being reframed not as morbid curiosities, but as a unique and deeply personal kind of folk art. And it's not just in museums. The craft itself is being revived. You have modern artisans who are using those same centuries-old techniques to create custom keepsakes for people today. They're continuing this long tradition of tangible, personal remembrance in a whole new era. So when we look back at all these seemingly strange customs, what we really see is something totally familiar, a profound human need to make memory into something tangible. And it leaves us with a final thought, one for our own time. In our world of infinite digital images and social media memorials, have these Victorian practices revealed a universal need we all have for a real physical connection in our grief?